Coach Hafley here with us now. And let's start with that offense. We got to talk with your new quarterback. What do you think about what you've seen from his development?
I'm excited. You know, pretty tough situation to come in on. He hadn't really started a game since his junior year in high school because senior year got knocked out in COVID. Starts against Duke. I think he throws for 325, a couple touchdown passes. Next week he goes down on a 2-minute drive to beat NC State there after a tough start. So pretty impressive with a guy who didn't get many reps. I mean, you know how it goes, Coach, especially you, backup quarterback, not getting the reps you need. And now he went through spring. He got the #1 reps, and he knows what he's doing. He got a taste of it. But now he's got a lot better protection up front, too. So I think every time he sees Mahogany, he gives him a big hug, as do I. So.
Well, a follow-up to Emmett, Coach, as a defensive coordinator in your past, do you try to create scenarios to help Emmett kind of get used to what he's going to expect to see every Saturday this season?
Yeah, the one thing I do, I spend a lot of time watching film with Emmett. I want him to see it from my perspective on why we're doing what we're doing, how we're trying to bait him. Yeah. The nickel's giving this away, the corner's giving this away, that safety's full of it, he's over there, he's going there. So my background as a back seven guy, I try to teach him what I'm looking at to help him because he's so smart and knowledgeable. Sometimes I don't want to do too much, but he's a guy that can figure it out.
My notes last night, I was deciding the questions I was going to ask you, and one was, why did you bring Christian Mahogany? And then we spent time with him, and I could see why you brought the kid, but tell me what you love about that guy.
Well, here's the cool part. All three of those guys just were up on the podium, and you guys talked to Christian today. Christian and I got really close from the moment I got here, because there was a time when I got here, when I left Ohio State, that he was going to leave. He wasn't happy. So we bonded and kept him. And then there was a time this year, was he going to go to the NFL? Was he going to hit the transfer portal? He had a tough time during his injury, and we got even closer. To see him up there talking, and then to see those other two young guys, I mean, we got great kids. I mean, I really like these kids we get to coach, which is awesome. And to see the toughness and the nastiness that Christian brings to that offensive line and just the team in general, I'm just so glad that he's back.
It only takes one nasty guy to get contagious.
That's it. And he's that guy. Yeah. And the whole team knows it. And he's not afraid to tell people.
You love to see it, especially at that position, especially being back. But I want to talk about your skill players because you lost just a guy that, man, we all love. We love to watch, and I know you did too, in Zay Flowers and what he meant to this team and a couple other guys that have moved on or gone to the NFL. Who's next? Who's going to be the star for you? Who's going to be that Zay Flowers type guy, or is it going to be all hands on deck?
Yeah, I hate to try to compare anybody to Zay. I mean, even Coach Chud got a text from Coach Harbaugh today that said Zay is, hey, tell Coach, Zay's one of the most mature, ready-to-go guys that I've been around in a long, long time. But does that surprise anybody after getting to know Zay and what Zay did and meant to this team last year? We're skilled at receiver. Jaden Williams is a 2-year starter. He missed the last 6 games. Everyone's kind of forgot about him, right? Dino Tomlin is a guy that jumped out last year, starting that NC State game, that really finished strong, that I'm really excited to see what he can do. Joe Griffin had his coming out party against Duke, big wide receiver, had the game-winning catch against NC State. And then there's some other guys. Lewis Bond's a name I think you're going to start to see. And then enters Ryan O'Keefe. He's going to wear number 4. I don't want to compare him to Zay, but he can fly. Wow. He can absolutely fly. I'm excited to see that. George Takis is back at tight end. Jeremiah Franklin played a whole lot last year. But then the guy who's just not talked about enough is Pat Garwell. Pat rushed for 1,000 yards 2 years ago. Last year, I don't know if Walter Payton could have rushed for 1,000 yards. And no disrespect to who was out there, right? But, I mean, Pat's back, and Pat was a guy who was teetering on, am I going to go through this again? Should I transfer? Pat, come back in the spring. And after he saw what we got, what was in front of him, he decided to come back. So he's a good player.
No doubt. Well, Coach, 78% of your production is back. So what was the biggest learning lesson for that team to use toward this 2023 season?
I think the biggest thing is a lot of guys got thrown into the fire. I mean, there's, at the end of the year, 37 of the 44 in the 2D were first or second year players. Some guys weren't ready to play. But then all of a sudden, you get thrown in there and you know what it's like. You know how hard you have to work in the offseason. You know how hard you have to train, how hard you have to study. And then spring, it's like, whoa, this is way different, right? I got my feet wet. I can do this. Then there's this level of excitement and confidence that, you know what, this thing is not as hard as I thought. So we got a lot more experience. We're finally getting a little bit older. A guy like Donovan led the ACC in sacks as a sophomore. there's a lot of excitement, the energy, the attitude, the effort. It's such a great group to coach, where I keep telling them, we're not going to talk and tweet. Let's just go play football. Let's have a great camp, fundamentals and technique. Let's push each other. Let's compete. But then let's just go play. And that's what I'm most excited about.
When you teach tackling, do you guys, like if you're in a scrimmage, do you tackle to the ground still? How do you do that?
We will at times tackle to the ground. Every day in individual, I'll set up live tackling in a more controlled way, but we'll tackle to the ground in Indy, and then there'll be a scrimmage or two that we'll tackle to the ground, making sure that it's not too long and too violent.
Right.
But you have to. You gotta.
I think you do too, personally.
You gotta tackle. I mean, even when I was at Ohio State as a coordinator, I remember right before the playoff game, Ryan was like, "You still want to do live tackling in Indy?" And I looked at him and said, "Damn right I do." I mean,
the worst thing that can happen to a defense is you can't get them on the ground.
Can't tackle.
You get them in position, can't get them on the ground, then you're going to get your butt kicked.
That's right. And there's no preseason game, so you better find time to do it.
That's right. Coach, you mentioned Donovan and how special of a defensive end he is, special of a weapon he is. I brought up to him, everybody knows that now. Everybody knows who number 6 is. How can you protect him? How can you scheme him up to where he still is an effective player as he was last year?
Yeah, there's things that we have to do, right? Do I want to overload and put him on the backside to make sure they're sliding away, try to create one-on-ones? Do I want to try to make people go 5-0 and create one-on-one situations, different type of bear front, cover up the guards? But then there's other guys. Sheeta's back. We forget about Sheeta Salah, who got hurt in our first game.
He brought him up. He didn't forget about him.
But he gets hurt in the first game too, right? So a year prior, we're talking about him as being our best defensive end. And then we got other guys too that are slightly coming and can rush. So I think it sets us up. You can do certain blitzes. It allows me to be creative on third down.
That's right. Will you move him around?
Move him around, man.
Yeah.
Put him anywhere. Find the guy you want to rush him on.
It's not fun to deal with.
Put him on a guard, you know. That's where it's fun to be a coach.
Speaking of being a coach, I know you come here to build a program. It's all about winning and results, but bigger picture, we're sitting here talking about Zay Flowers, who stayed with you guys when he could have looked elsewhere. We're talking to Christian Mahogany, and he's got us all almost emotional talking about what it means to be a part of this program. For you personally, getting this opportunity to be a head coach and hearing guys that say, I could go elsewhere for money, I could go elsewhere for this, but I want to be right here. What does that mean to you?
Everything. And that's where, like last year was hard, and you guys saw a couple times after wins, like everything just kind of poured out of me. Like, that's why we do what we do. That's one of the reasons I left the NFL. Like, do you know how proud I am when I see those 3 guys talk up there? Like, that's, like, I'm helping those guys change their lives and develop into people. Get great degrees, get jobs, have families. Like, we have great kids. We're in there talking on the plane. Like, this is a fun team to be around. And when you really care about the people, because you win with people, it's so far greater than anything you can explain. And that's why those wins, guys, like, there's nothing better than that, being around those guys. And I'm fortunate to have the support and be the head coach at BC.
We appreciate you. Awesome.
Yeah, we do, and I appreciate you sharing that, Coach. We'll see you in just a couple of weeks, August 17th, for our ACC Network Summer Tour, and then cannot wait to see as you get things started Saturday, September 2nd, a noon game right here on ACC Network. Best of luck, Coach.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.